felt it would give us the best access to the strongest possible group of senior insurance decision makers.
InsurTech Insights is a must-do conference, I think, for the network that is built here.
Good afternoon, New York. You wanted the best? You got the best. Where have I heard that before? Hey, there's a lot of seats up here in the front, and you also can hear a lot better up here. Once you get in front of those columns, it's a lot louder. It's like blaring at us right now. So welcome, everybody. Hope you've been having a great conference. I'm Stacy Brown, founder of InsurTech Hartford, and we have a great panel here today. Let's go down the line with intros.
Hi, everybody. Jeff. Oh, hello, everybody. Jeff Heine, Chief Revenue Officer with Nobody. I'm glad to be here.
Catherine Minami with NFP and Aon Company. Happy to be here.
Brian Poppy, I'm with Mutual of Omaha. I'm trying to come up with a good joke. I'm not happy to be here, I guess. I got roped in at the last. I'm just kidding. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. Excited to talk about our topics today.
I'm Erin McClintock. I'm the Senior Director of Life Underwriting Innovation at Nationwide Financial.
Awesome, awesome. So this topic that we're going to talk about today is navigating change in technology and culture in the insurance industry. And it's kind of a mouthful, but it's really two parts, right? There's a technology part and there's a cultural part. So let's start off with a little bit about the what's and the whys, right? Like what's out there that's driving the need for change in our industry. And let's start with technology. What technologies do we see that's driving the need for change? Let's see how long we can go without saying AI.
ChatGPT, does that count? Like everyone likes to have that on their phones. Besides just relying on Amazon, I have no idea how my parents did it, but now I have a 1-year-old and I Amazon everything. It's fantastic. But I think in technology, it's in our everyday lives and it's influencing what our clients and our colleagues are expecting from their day-to-day work space.
I don't know if you've heard of this thing called the information superhighway, but I generally think that is going to change the world as it is.
I haven't.
Yeah, the World Wide Web, perhaps?
Oh, the web.
Yeah, there we go.
I just never heard it called that.
No,
or at least not in the last 20 years.
Well, yeah, generally I guess insurance companies are behind the times as it is anyway. So you've got a lot of like mainframe system that existed before the internet was a thing. So you're trying to get that caught up. You've got customer expectations that are changing with how they get information delivered immediately rather than in batch processes overnight. And of course, you've got AI, which is out there like adding a lot of value to people's lives, at least one at a time. And I have a feeling we'll get to talk about what that looks like at scale from the rest of the panel.
Yeah, and I guess it's not necessarily the technology, but I think it's the output of technology. And I'll give credit to my colleagues because I did a little bit of a roundtable saying, what are we going to speak about today? And what's actually the output of this is all the data that's more accessible that we're seeing throughout as consumers and businesses. And there's a lot of the challenges. How do you adapt to that? How do you make the best use of it? How do you trust it? And a lot of these different technologies are going to be really a way to harness that, I think, and it's going to be an interesting part to think about how we actually adapt to that change for employees.
Oh, everyone's looking at me to say something because I'm just going to kind of piggyback off of what everyone is saying. But I'm going to take it a little bit different in direction, say from a life insurance perspective. A lot of our consumers, you know, to Brian's point, we're behind on the technology. We're not really the most forward-facing. We had one study about 10 years ago that said people want to buy life insurance like Amazon. It was one study that we latched onto, and it's been the driver of change for technology from not only like ease of business for brokers and agents to sell business, but it's also for inside our directory, reports of being able to actually use technology in a smart way with like acceleration, automated under rules engines, predictive analytics, and that's really where I'm seeing a lot of the change, and what's forcing it is our consumers just for that need for the easy application filling out.
I'm going to take Stacy's job for a minute. Why do we think that is? This is not necessarily just for you, but for the group. Why do we think that adoption in insurance is slower than in other industries?
I think we're bogged down with a lot of legacy systems. The insurance industry is one of the oldest industries out there, so I think a lot of us struggle Actually, earlier there was another panel that also said, like, we went through this, like, let's collect data. We have so many applications, forms, and like questions that we're asking on applications that we don't even know why we're asking, but someone had thought a brilliant idea. Let's just add 3 more questions just in case we need that piece of information. So now our data pool has become data mud. That's what I heard. And I feel like parsing that out and then being able to democratize that data, as you said, to like share with us and figure out what insights there are, that's kind of the struggle and challenge we have today in our industry.
But wouldn't banking have been in the same space? Like, they would have had legacy like mainframe technologies too, and banking seems to have done a better job than the insurance industry.
Yes, and I think some of the simplicity is because the industry hasn't had to. I think there's a lot of changes that are happening. I mean, if you're profitable and things are good, and why change? And by the way, it was a great softball because we're a modern platform helping folks get off of legacy. But actually, that's what we deal with quite often is like, why change? Why do we don't feel the need?
Oh yeah, back to the culture question then, which I assume is, yeah, perfect. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Stacy. Stacy, please moderate me. I'm all over the place.
Brian, why don't you take it from here then? Well, talk about culture, right? What's driving the need for a change of culture? Are there outside influences? Like, what are you seeing?
I mean, I think Aaron hit on it with the customers are like becoming more important. So insurance companies designed processes that benefited insurance companies. To Catherine's example of like, we added questions to the application because we thought the questions would be helpful. We didn't really think about what that meant from a customer's perspective, or customer calling in and you require them to have their policy number. Like, that is not a customer friendly thing. Like, we assigned the number to the customer. That's not a natural thing for them to know and respond with, right? Like, so when you start thinking about it from a customer's perspective, as like nearly every other industry has, of how do I make the customer's life better, Amazon being a good example, even banking probably doing a better job than the insurance industry, that does kind of require some culture change of like, well, I have to start thinking outside in rather than how do I make my life easier? It's how do I make the customer's life easier?
Customer expectations.
Yes.
Good answer. Anybody else want to add to the topic of what's driving?
Well, the question too is that because you could actually talk about banks and financial institutions who are heavily regulated as well, because that's often what I hear is that's why insurance doesn't change. Any viewpoint on that?
I don't know. I feel like we like to use that as an excuse. I like to say, though, like, we like to throw the compliance flag on the field anytime somebody comes up with a good idea. Of like, yeah, the compliance problem, you'll never be able to do that. And then, like, you start asking questions of like, well, tell me more. And then, like, nobody can produce the reg that says you can't do that. And you're like, well, have you talked to the regulators? Like, if it's not clear, have you went to talk to a regulator? And everybody's like, nah, we don't do that. What do you mean? Like, there are people on the other side of the table. Like, you go talk to them and ask questions.
Well, you know, one of the questions we're eventually going to get to talking about is
yeah, I told you. I'm going to need moderated here.
So that maybe we can kind of move on to that then, right? And by the way, there's this app Slido. Has anybody ever used it? There's information up here on the slide. If anybody wants to ask questions, you can put the questions in Slido. And if you don't want to ask questions, you can go into Slido and help upvote for questions so we can know if anybody's actually interested in them. So I'll be checking Slido from time to time. With that said, so we talked a lot about the what's in some of the whys. Let's talk about hows, right? So when it comes to change, like, can anybody talk about a story where a change initiative just hit a wall because of resistance, and how was it handled, and what kind of lessons were learned from it?
For me, it's committees. I die by committees. It's like right now everyone's trying to put together an AI governance committee, and one of the members just thinks ML is separate from AI, and like it's just kind of hard to get around. I mean, I think we are a regulated industry, not as heavily as banking, but there is a necessity and a need and kind of like a knee-jerk reaction to like just get a bunch of people and you have a lot of meetings and then we're like, okay, let's decide, let's vet, let's plan, and then eventually you're already 60 days to 6 months behind on the original idea, which could have been really awesome, but we're right now in a race to like catch up and stay up to date with everything else. and plus a war on talent too. Like it's just really hard in order to help embrace the young, next generation who will be entering this industry, to get them interested and invested in what could be possible within this industry.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say on this one. Just having been on the vendor side for so long, 20 plus years, and what ends up happening too when you start to think about the end users, you consistently see that you have implementations rolled out. The users really don't have the understanding of a why from a business standpoint until they get into it. But generally, and there's a number that I just can't say because of company names, rolled out, paused, said, let's go back and try to understand what actually happened. And so did a better job of communicating to what the business objectives are. But as soon as the users were engaged, up to the managers, they started to find out what they cared about. You started to build workflows and ways that could help them do their jobs better. But also, the biggest thing I see missed is the incentive for the user. There's always an incentive there. Sorry, I'm a commercial officer, so that is hard. If you find out what's in it for them very, very early on and build processes around it, they generally will get very good support. One of this was basically the implementation of underwriting guidelines, which in a lot of ways tightened the box for the underwriter, which isn't necessarily favorable to the underwriter. Actually, what it ended up doing is it gave them an advantage of how they would negotiate the contracts with the brokers. So once they unpacked that, all of a sudden you had better adoption because there was something in it for them. And so I've got a litany of examples if you want, but that's just considering the users with empathy and their incentives, really aligning those is critical.
I agree with the factoring in the users, and I'm going to refer to some, and again, my specific line of production underwriters. Change is hard. They're also not very open to change, and that's really just the honest truth. So when I'm currently right now going through change management with my team on introducing a new product, it's a tool. It's part of the process. It's not that complicated in my opinion, but as much as we've been pulling them aside and doing strategy talks, explaining why this product is part of our strategy and our growth and digitalization, and providing even like quality assurance, saying like, we QA the tool, not you as a person, there's still a lot of resistance to it because it's change. And you have to, I think some people forget, and they may hold leaders accountable on feeling like the change is happening at them and not with them. And even though we're doing our best to do things with them, I still think there's a lot of accountability as an individual person to accept change and see where the market is going and where the trends are. Like we all know, like you made the joke that said, how many minutes can we get in without using the word AI? You dropped it in about 4 minutes in, so we didn't get very far, right? But there's also this fear element too, right? There's a shift that's like, people seem to think that more automation leads to people being laid off. I've been in this industry for a long time, and as much as we've been automating, we've never laid anybody off. We've had layoffs in our industry, but that was not tied to automation being so high. But there is this fear element that is the resistance that's hard to overcome because it goes back to an individual person, and it's hard to get one individual person to change.
Yeah, so what do you think drives that fear? This is probably a question, again, for the rest of the group, too, because, like, you've seen it a bunch of, like, you're saying, well, I had to approach the users with empathy. I mean, you're saying it's death by committee, but the committees are trying to manage something. Like, what are they managing it and why? Like,
I think mitigating fear maybe from the top and also from the bottom in terms of being either afraid of like the folks in the front of the lines saying this is overwhelming, too much change to me, and then they walk away. But there are revenue generating producers from the top where they also have to demonstrate performance, P&L, and all the stuff and report that. So with technology today that's just moving so fast, a committee has been inserted as like, let's hit pause and see what's going on. I think it's like a good positive intention and it makes sense, but we can't like go over too slowly. I think there has to be some sort of efficiency when it comes to committee and establishing like best practices a little bit faster with the flexibility of being able to adopt the next new thing that is coming at us right now.
So is the fear, you had mentioned like from the bottom, is the fear that like whoever is doing the task is going to get it wrong? Like, because you're saying they're may be feeling overwhelmed and they can't like make the decision.
well, from like grassroots and frontline,
Yeah,
I think it's loss security, like job security at the moment. That
Okay,
we
so this
have
is back to like,
back to
yeah, are you going to fire me because new thing can do my job?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of it too, though.
But that has always been there, right?
True. I agree with everything you said. Part of me thinks some of it is fear, but some of it is like, you don't understand my job. You've just made my job harder. And
100%.
yeah. And I think some of that's like an understanding and recognition about how to actually help the user. So some of it is fear. Some of it is, you've just made my job harder. You've given me another 60% of admin work where I can't actually get my job done, which actually gets in the way of the business outcome you want.
Or like another platform to sign on, another
Yes.
password to remember. Yeah. But I think the intention of the technology, and I think that's where we have to look from a macro scale. Yes, there is a benefit to committee as a centralized like view on a macro strategy perspective, is to empathize with those feelings and try to make the experience for that individual like easier. No, you do not have to log on and remember another password. Let's consider the existing technology like single sign-on, a centralized platform, how to report it to make their lives easier. But that I think that's empathy that the committee does try, but at the moment it's like meetings, and then we create forms to like vet new technology that's going to enter a sphere. At the same time, we know that our peers, our employees, like they have their personal laptop, they have their company laptop, and if they can't figure out how to get something, they'll go to their personal laptop, launch Gemini or ChatGPT, figure out the answer, and then they enter it into their workspace. So like, you know what I mean? It's like, this is what's pushing us to consider in a thoughtful way transforming tomorrow and what's happening with our employees as well as our client experience.
Yeah, I freaked out our lawyers once when I was like, your engineers definitely go to Stack Overflow and look at people that have the exact same problem, and then they copy and paste the code from Stack Overflow into, like, if you are thinking that they don't do that, you're wrong. Like 1,000% they are. And now it's like, well, I don't need to go to Stack Overflow. I just go to ChatGPT and ask, yeah, this is the error I'm getting. What do I need to do?
You know, it's amazing. This is really good discussion. I'm glad we were able to have NVIDIA here too, because while like we all probably go through periods of where we're dealing with change, this guy makes a living of driving change and having to deal with the impacts of those challenges. So definitely a lot of good points about.
Can I offer one other, just because I think
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to derail you. We're horrible. We're
Good.
making
No,
your
Don,
job harder.
do my
Mainly
job,
by-
please.
Thank you. Welcome aboard.
What Aaron said, I think we were talking again this morning, change is hard. How often is that not factored in to the implementation, right? There's the whole crush to get a deal done, and there's a whole crush to get it live and return business value. Put one of the best examples, again, I can't name the client. They built 90 days in to incubate it with the users, not for traditional user acceptance testing, but just to give them a chance to change.
Why do you think we always live in pilot? Like, how often do you live a pilot that's like 2-3 years long, and then you're like, is it ever really going to go full-blown production, or is it just going to live in a pilot phase? And that's, you know, that's what we have to do in this experimental place, is to get that adoptability from people. But when you put it in a wide scale, right, you went from like maybe 10 opinions to now 150. It's hard to manage, right?
Well, you know, we talked a lot about the what's and the whys, and we looked at change resistance as one of the challenges. But let's talk a little bit strategy-wise, like what are organizations doing? What do we see organizations doing well to make themselves more adaptable, whether it's at an individual level or a team level or organizationally? Does anybody have any good examples of adaptability?
At NFP, we built an in-house platform, and originally the idea was received it was challenged a lot because hiring developers, engineers, figuring out what the use case is, where to fit it, which business was going, what is the ROI.
Hold on. Can you define what the platform is and what it does? Like, you're building a new one, and I'm trying to like contextualize it.
Yeah. So this in-house. So NFP has a group benefits, executive benefits, wealth, and P&C business units. And the in-house platform was our way to centralize the information,
Data
avoid
only or administration too?
Data
okay.
was the primary goal, because each one of our businesses, NFP just grew out of like acquisition, so there was going to be like legacy systems. So the internal idea was to have the centralized position. Don't get rid of legacy and start, training people to like, okay, now push down a new system, was plug in the centralized platform that would plug into the legacy systems that our employees coming on board were already familiar with. Now, it is helpful for us not just to like now develop out of the data that we've already grown as a pool, but also talk to vendors and see like, does it make sense to connect, learn from what's going on with like more swift, more avid startups that are coming up with fresh ideas to support our idea and then help mitigate some of the expenses that come out of pockets in front of time.
So maybe to Jeff's point earlier, like you signed a bunch of people up for a lot of work to make this platform a reality. How did you sell it to them? Like, right? Because somebody's going to have to bring that data together. Like, and it's easy to just be like, yeah, at the top of the house, this would be great to have all our data together, and like we can make some crazy decisions. But like, the people that are like managing those systems day to day, they're the ones that have to make that integration to this new platform layer. Like, how did you sell it to them?
It was a long game. Like, we established an innovation lab 5-6 years ago, and then knowing that technology was going to move ahead. What culture and expectations of our peers, our employees, our businesses was going to happen was going to change. It was a long game play for us to establish. And now here we are with, like, little did we know Gen AI was going to, like, pop so quickly here in 2024, but, like, it is helping us kind of a platform to launch forward and then engage these smart, innovative ideas and continue to support and help bridge the gap with that experience of our employees and soften the landing a little bit. Yeah.
Catherine, where's the adaptability though? Like, how did you? Was there anything that you guys did in advance to?
A lot of grassroots, a lot of office hours. It's like in-person conversations, demonstrating that empathy. I want to learn what it is that you do when you receive an email. Does it come with an attachment, or is it a picture, or do you need to fax something? Tell us what are just going through it in the dealing with the minutia was very helpful to get us across some of the key partners to adopt and then become champions of the platform and empower them to continue to build ideas going forward. But it was a lot investing, and we continue to invest. Like, I love workflows. Creating mermaid diagrams with Copilot is my favorite thing to do, because now I don't have to size boxes on a PowerPoint slide. But it's just breaking it down, being cognizant of, oh, you need that number 2 decimal points, or you don't care it. You the kind of information you receive, you'll receive it MM instead of fully spelled out. Those details does help, and then demonstrate that we care about the work that you do. It is valuable, but now I'm going to empower you with this tool for you to think of what else you can do now that we have these additional tools.
That sounds smart. Anybody else want to jump on that one?
Go ahead.
Honestly, it's just you have to, when you're putting in change management, you have to allow people to process the change, go through it, and vocalize it. And not a lot of companies allow cultures to have, I know this is not the most appropriate thing to be saying, but bitching sessions. I love them because there's truth hidden in them. So I personally...
Do you officially call them that?
Yes, I will. Internally with my own team, yes. But I go on camera, I remove all other managers and directors from the call, and I meet with our production underwriters every quarter, each individual team, to tell me what's working, what's not working. And then we start to pivot the direction from there. And again, I keep that open, honest line, because they need to trust me the same way I need to trust them. And so that's been the philosophy that I've been doing for the past 2 years since I come back to Nationwide. And it's been working very, very well. And you have to help create a culture where people can say the truth and not be penalized for it.
Bitching as a strategy. I love it.
Yeah, I just have one comment on this, and I'm notoriously positive. I just don't think we as an industry do a good job from an adaptability standpoint of helping folks. I mean, I did a ton of research, and I found a lot of great examples, but they weren't from this industry. So I think it's one of these opportunities for us to do a bit better. And it's interesting too, and since it's okay to say AI right now, I look at it and go, Gen AI is so powerful in actually helping folks adapt and empower, but then there's this control. And I get the regulatory aspect, but it's probably one of the single biggest technologies that helps empowers. And I feel like that's actually, folks are getting in the way of that. So I would want to encourage a little bit more exploration. We're doing a hackathon around just different ways to use AI. In the grant, we're a technology company, but it's a way to start to get user engagement and help force the adaptability again, because the user are going to get engaged. But I would say we can do better as an industry.
Totally. And well, actually, maybe that's a good transition to talking about empowerment, right? So Catherine mentioned a little bit about tools and giving people tools, and you're kind of talking along the same way and using them through hackathons and stuff. So, but beyond that, like, what else are organizations doing? What are some trends we see out there for empowering our talent?
At my experience at NFP, it is like top support. Our C-suite is very supportive. Our parent company, now we have like a deeper bench strength in terms of experts in like specific specialty. Every specialty that I've come up with, someone said, "Oh, I know a guy for that." Like, okay, awesome. The partnership, like joining the Aon kind of fold, has been very beneficial. So top-down support of the programs and ideas has been very helpful. And then definitely the grassroots like activity that I've expressed here really has been helping kind of transform or begin to open minds as to the possibilities, providing our employees and our clients like somewhere to start versus you can do anything. And what does that mean? What does that mean?
So I guess a question maybe for the two of you might be like, how far do you let them go and how far do you let employees go in shaping like their day-to-day processes or in figuring that out? Because like that's the empowerment piece, right? Like I try to manage teams this way, where you have a team and you're like, here's your target. Your target is to improve underwriting, and if you are increasing speed and holding costs the same, I actually don't care what you're doing underneath there. Assuming you're making the same decisions you were before. Like, so I can improve decisions, I can improve speed, I can decrease cost, and like any combination of those three is fine. And like those are the three things that I'll monitor this underwriting team on. And so then it becomes a conversation about like team, whatever you need to do those three things. And again, hold one of them constant, change the other two, hold other two constant, change one of them, right? Go do your thing. Like that is how we have tried to empower teams. And some teams like that, and some teams really do not, because they've never been managed that way before. It's back to the fear thing. It's scary for them to have to see like that level of empowerment, because like they've never had to make decisions about how do I change my process. Like somebody else usually tells me I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this. I've never had to make decisions about technology before. They've always told me I just had to use this like legacy technology system.
Yeah, what's the process of changing our process?
Yeah, and that's like what you're trying to say of like, I don't know. I've been in a lot of roles where I don't know how to do that job, but like I know that you all as the experts that like work with me on these things, like that's what you do all day long. So you have an idea, like let's talk about the merits of the idea and then go test it. Hopefully you get out of pilot phase before 2 years, but like,
2 years.
Go knock yourself out.
Well, for my grassroots events, I love like these. I just came in and sat down with a team on Tuesday, and as they were walking me through what they did, I just kept asking, "What if?" And then you could see it, the reaction, like, "Oh yeah," because in the end, my whole point of me clicking here is because I want this output at the end. Okay, so what if you miss one click? Does it still work? So like, yeah. I was just told that this was this is the legacy way. This was the guidelines when I was trained, when they walked in the door. I'm like, but in the end, like, what is it that you actually need in order to complete that task so you can do something else that's probably more exciting than just receiving an email, unattaching and saving it onto SharePoint, which moves on, and then you pass it on to someone, put it on Planner, click the milestone off of it. It's like, God damn it. Like, how many more clicks do we have to go just to like keep with it? Like, what if? And then the what if has been so fun to repeat, and no one minds it. They're not telling me, like, if you ask what if one more time, I'm just going to have tequila shots every time and just hit the floor.
Is that?
It's a good tool, though. Actually, everybody could take that away from today, right? Just asking what if.
Are you the single prompter, or have you figured out how to scale that?
So we're in the process of doing it, actually. Again, within the firm, we are doing these road shows of getting all our employees as comfortable as they are, like showing like what could be with AI tools. We are a Microsoft company. We use like everything Power Apps right now, and we've had immediate high adoption in terms of Copilot. I mean, just from like generating emails, but definitely for like other things. And I'm looking forward to like now teaching the art of prompting, but in the easiest way possible. And that begins with the best prompt is if you can actually explain the exact detail. Look, like open the file. Look at page 2. I need this paragraph. Look at that, like going through that. There's a book I'm reading to my daughter. It's called Girls Who Code. It's a series book. And it's 6th graders who attend this coding club. And the teacher in the book give me instructions on an Index card how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And according to the instructions, they had to make the peanut butter jelly sandwich. Some of the instructions did not express open the bag, like the loaf of bread. Pull up one. Open the jar. Some of the instructions, they would just put the jar on top of the bread, and that's a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Going through it step by step, at least, has been successful with my grassroots programs, and then we end up getting results in adoption.
Excellent. Does anybody else want to add that? Or I have a pretty good, some good audience questions here to throw at you guys, some random ones. All right, so somebody was asking, to what extent do we see internal politics creating either stopping innovation or hindering change?
Mine is quantifying. What's the ROI at the end? They're like, okay, Catherine, so you're going to have these meetings. What's the ROI? Like, let me get back to you. Let me create an AI agent and then calculate that and then give you a plus or minus kind of range. How about that?
I mean, internal politics are always going to happen. I think, though, what's challenging is when you're working in such cross-functional teams with, like, for me, underwriting, actuarial, data science, product, business development. Even though we all report and have the same like overarching goal, each team has a different goal, right? So it's either they want to create a new innovative product that's going to backlog IT because we're going to put that product prior to everything else, right? That's one example. I do think it's a little hard to overcome, but you have to do your best with it. Form some allyships. That's kind of like my recommendation is form allies, right? And then, articulate why your case, what you're advocating for, should be considered one of the top higher priorities. That's kind of my recommendation.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've found a little bit of success making implicit things explicit. So if you think there is some politicking going on, you can address that in a way that's like, I don't know, disarming maybe, of like, hey, a reason you might be resisting this could be you want success or whatever the thing is, or you've got a different goal than we do. Like, and if you call it out, it's a little easier to at least like nail it down and then maybe find a way around it. If you just sort of let it happen, like it's going to end up crushing you. You're going to either end up in death by meetings and you won't know why the thing got killed because you didn't actually find the one person or the one group or whatever that wanted to kill it for whatever reason.
It's interesting. That's a similar point I was going to raise too, is make them a part of the actual project team. They confront it, go right head on, unearth it very, very early on and start to work for those incentives. If not, it'll just be that consistent force that pulls at it. And we see it constantly, and we're actually used quite often in those discussions. It's just bring them and make them part of the problem. And there's generally a higher level goal that you can attach to that generally kind of demystifies that a bit too.
Yeah, I will, probably similar to my role on the panel today, I will force other people to say, like, hey, why might somebody not want to do this? Like, and then you can, it doesn't even necessarily be the person who, like, is resisting it, but just to sort of make that conversation an okay one to have has been helpful in ultimately getting people to buy into the change.
That and bitch sessions, right? Awesome. Well, let's think about the actual human impact of change, right? Because there is a lot of change. We've been kind of having this discussion kind of on a project-wise basis, but if you look at across the organizations, I don't know how often it happens that change happens so fast that the next time you go to do something, you don't even know how to do it anymore because it's already changed the process has changed 3 times, right? There's like a ton of change, and all that change can really have an impact to people emotionally, like, you know, mental health, things of that sort. So what are some of the trends that we see leaders doing to support their teams and help them with the personal side?
I think it's just bringing, like, helping connect. Like, that's the best leaders can do. It's if there is one business team, at least my experience has been, they come across a great opportunity and they hit a wall or they don't know where to go, but it's an opportunity that can generate revenue. I want to, like, grasp this. And then in comes the leader. It's like, okay, let me connect you with someone because I can see, even though I don't have the answer for you, I think that has been very empowering and has resulted in success stories that I was kind of lucky to be part of. I'm like, ooh, look, let me see.
It's a similar thread. As a leader, be okay to announce your own vulnerability and perhaps where you're struggling with that. It just gives folks the psychological safety to actually talk about it. I'm in a leadership position, and I generally try to offer that. And when I don't, people get quiet. When I do, suddenly voices come out, right? And it's really, really important to give folks, none of us know, let's talk about AI, where it's going to go, but opening that dialogue generally gives folks the comfort and actually helps them adapt.
Vulnerability is one of those things that's easy to say, harder to do, right? And because the first person is vulnerable of being the only vulnerable person in the room, right? So, yeah, it's a challenging one, but could be useful. But you could also see it, if you were in a highly political environment, I don't see anybody jumping in to be vulnerable. But that could be a way to cause change, though, right?
You know what? I would say that some of the larger companies that has to go up, the leaderships are very open about it. Maybe it's not, I got this wrong, but I'm not sure. What do you think? It's a way to open up that type of dialogue. I see some of the higher performing companies actually really exhibiting that.
Excellent. Is anybody else seeing anything that leaders are doing to help support their teams? Anybody see any mental health programs?
That's one of my my company's specialties. Internally, when I say, hey, look at this now, wouldn't it be great if the thing you do, we could just automate it, put it on a conveyor belt, and then that way you and I can go have cappuccinos at 3 p.m. every single day. My treat. Like, let's work European style 4 days a week and let the machine run it overnights. Wouldn't that be great? Okay, now what if?
Anybody else? Well, we're getting close at the end of time here, so this has been a great audience. Let's have a little fun, right? Let's do a lightning round. So I'm going to ask questions, and you have to give the shortest answer you could possibly give. All right? We'll start with let's start with Jeff and go down the line. What's your favorite ice cream?
Definitely mint chocolate chip.
Excellent. Catherine?
Cookie dough.
Butter brickle.
Chocolate with fresh strawberries and bananas on top.
Nobody said vanilla.
Whipped cream, too?
What's your favorite movie quote?
All right. Sorry, what was the next one?
Movie quote.
Movie quote.
That we can say.
Oh.
Do you like Dags? It's from Snatch. That's Brad Pitt's character. He's a He's a pikey. Anybody seen this movie, Snatch? All right, perfect. Thank you. Like it, Alex?
Now it's middle out. I just watched the episode of Silicon Valley when it came up. So it's not a movie, but now that's my favorite thing to say.
I'm going to go with Job from Arrested Development. I've made a huge mistake.
Awesome. Dream car, Jeff.
Porsche 911 Turbo.
All right.
A functioning 1986 Vanagon, which is sitting in my garage forever.
I don't drive, so no
Subway,
car for me. Subway.
Future of insurance. Are we moving faster or slower?
I think conversations like this and forums like this are very helpful, and there is like a good positive momentum. We just need to like keep being curious and asking and supporting each other.
Yeah, change is only going faster from here.
Faster. I think there's the changing world around us. It's actually forcing more change in the industry, like weather.
And Aaron, faster or slower?
Faster. I agree with everyone on the panel.
Excellent. You heard it here, folks. Insurance is going faster, but in the future.
Who knew?
Thank you all. You've been a great audience and wonderful panelists. Thank you.